Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hannah.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannahs,
where we talk about all your favorite scary movies.
And today we are covering one of our favorite found footage films. We are covering 2007's Spanish language film, Rec.
Which I've been pushing for a while for us to cover because I am a big fan of this movie.
It was time.
I'm very, very happy we get to cover it. I'm very happy we got to watch it again because I had a blast watching it.
It's so fun.
Yeah,
and
it is
freaking scary.
It's a very good found footage horror movie. Probably my favorite in the found footage horror genre. So you're gonna know I'm gonna have a lot of nice things to say about it.
It's very far up there. It's top 3, 5.
Yeah,
3.
I mean I haven't seen a ton because it's not a genre that I particularly love, but this is like about as good as you can do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even perfect, I would say, for this genre. So.
Yeah. So we had actually asked our followers on Instagram, what is your favorite found footage horror movie and which is scariest? So I did want to share what our followers say their favorites were. Spooky Sips Podcast said definitely not The Blair Witch, but it's still iconic. Bells of Horror Podcast said Hell House LLC is their favorite, but they do enjoy Host and Rec. And then we had some of our other followers comment. One of our followers, their account is just Band Manager 2023. And they said VHS for both. Creep is also really good. And then our follower, Ross from Dublin, Ireland, which is so fun, shout out, said Blair Witch when I first saw it. Gotta give Grave Encounters a go too. It's underrated, starts off cheesy, but gets good. So those were our listener engagement, this week. But now we're gonna get into our further discussion of Rec.
Tell me about it.
So, as I said, it's a 2007 film, co-written and directed by Jaime Balaguer and Paco Plaza. And it is starring Manuela Velasco. She plays the TV show host, reporter, Angela, our main character. And something really fun about that is she really was a television host, like her character.
I believe it.
So she's that, and then she's done some acting too.
Yeah.
So she's like a perfect fit.
I guess we should say the small synopsis of this is that she's a late night television host. Not late night as in like Fallon, but like overnight documentary filmmaker type thing. Mm-hmm. And she's covering things that her show is called While You Sleep.
While You're Sleeping.
And she goes with the fire department. They end up going to a call in an apartment building, and then some crazy shit happens after that.
Yeah. So fun. So this film was so well received that it was remade only a year later in the US. Under the name Quarantine.
Which I had heard about that before Rec, and I know it wasn't good.
No, it wasn't.
Which is a shame, because then I went and watched Rec and was like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Stop remaking foreign language films.
Yeah.
Just go and watch the originals, idiots.
I was about to go on like a rant about that too, because I love Train to Busan. I think that is a really, really great film. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they're doing it in American version makes no sense at all.
Yeah, it's going to be Amtrak to New York City.
Yeah, it's going to be from Hamilton, like Trenton to New York City.
Yep.
I mean, I guess
not high speed.
I guess the train ride would be an appropriate amount of time for a film. But other than that, it's stupid.
Yeah. The whole high speed element is like what is big, I think, for that.
Yeah. And we don't have that. We have very little train here.
Yeah.
So the only option is in or out of New York City. Anyway, yeah, we're dumb here, and we like to remake movies that did really well in their, native language, and then we try and make it Americanized, and then we fuck it up. Case in point, Quarantine. So, fun fact.
So if you've ever seen Quarantine, like I remember only hearing about that, and you didn't know it was previously Rec, please go watch Rec. It is, how long was it? 74 minutes?
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's so short. I don't even know if it counts as a feature-length film. I don't care. It feels feature-length. It's a great little watch, and it's over quick.
So not only did Rec spawn an American remake, it also prompted 3 sequels. Rec 2, Rec 3 Genesis, and Rec 4 Apocalypse, which we haven't seen and did not do quite as well critically, but I think all of them did as well or better than Quarantine still.
Nice. I'd kind of heard that they get kind of goofy and they're kind of like almost parodies.
I was reading the plots to them, and one of them like ends up on a boat, and it definitely seems like it jumps the shark a little bit, but it kind of.
Well,
I hope it's intentionally like campy at that point, but I don't know.
Based on the posters, it looks that way, but I got no interest. I'll just stick around with Rec 1 or Rec. Also, this is stylized with brackets around it, so Rec is like record.
Yeah,
should probably explain
with like
that.
A dot too.
So REC, a bracket, REC bracket.
Yeah, Rec is short for record because they're recording all of the footage.
Yep.
Time Out made a list in 2014 called 100 Best Horror Films, which, quote, ranked the best horror films as voted by more than 100 experts, including Simon Pegg and Roger Corman. And they rated rank number 54.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
I was looking at their list, though, and they put Omen, like the Omen, like the original, higher than Rec. So
and I don't like that movie, so...
sucked, so I don't know how I feel about it, but, you know, good movie. Some facts about the actual filming of the movie. The actors were never given the script in its entirety, so they actually didn't know what would happen to their character, necessarily, or the characters around them, until they showed up that day. So there was a lot of, like, improvising or, like, learning on the spot. And it meant that there was a lot more, like, high stress and anxiety involved in filming this, which they definitely exploited for the final product.
Oh, that's cool.
It was also filmed chronologically.
That makes sense as well, especially if they're not going to know what's happening.
Exactly. And
I think found footage makes sense to film chronologically, though.
I agree. I think it feels more natural, especially when you're trying to generate that natural feel of like someone just recording something on a camera.
And there are a lot of long takes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And last fact about filming, in the last scenes of the movie, they are in complete darkness and they're like seeing the world around them like through night vision on a camera. And those passages were shot in complete darkness using an infrared camera. So the actors really could not see what was around them.
That's really cool, too.
Which is scary as fuck, even if you know you are acting.
It makes sense, because they look, like, blind in the shot. All right,
the context of the scene is so scary. Like, I'd be like, no, thank you. I know I filmed this whole movie, but I take it back. Redo it. I'm not doing it. Yeah, so I thought that was really funny and really fun.
Oh, lots of fun background facts here.
Yeah. So we, like we said, had seen this movie before. I think we'd both seen it, once?
Yeah, I actually think this is only my second viewing.
And it was very impressionable for us. We definitely watched it several years ago before the idea of a horror podcast was even on the radar. And then when we were starting the podcast, we were like, oh, hell yeah.
Well, if you've listened to other episodes, I have said we should cover Rec many, many times.
I don't know if you've actually managed to do it that on the mic or if it's been behind the scenes. But
both.
Mm-hmm. It's great, so that's why. So let's do our 15-second summaries. You kind of already did one.
I felt like when we were explaining the reporter that I needed to give a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first, though.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, camera crew gets stuck in an apartment building where there's these kind of infected zombies and everyone starts changing, but they're not exactly infected zombies. They're actually like possessed infected zombies, but the possession is infectious. And then a big scary lady eats them.
Big scary lady did eat them. Yep. Maybe. Considering one of the characters we think is eaten is in the sequel.
I never saw the sequel, so I don't know. Okay. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go.
People locked in building due to zombie outbreak. Government keeps them locked in and doesn't really explain why. We love government entities who suck.
All right. You ready for the full-on plot description?
Yeah.
There's actually not much plot in this movie. But like when I think about it, I feel like
so much happened.
Perfect. Yeah.
I feel like so much happened. But not.
I'll begin now.
Go for it.
Reporter Angela and her cameraman Pablo are covering the night shift in one of Barcelona's local fire stations for the televised series While You're Sleeping. The firehouse receives a call about an old woman who's trapped in her apartment. Angela and Pablo accompany two of the firefighters, Alex and Manu, to the apartment building. The old woman becomes aggressive and attacks one of the police officers, biting his neck. The crew find that the police and military have sealed off the building and trapped them inside. As the residents begin to panic, Alex, who remained upstairs with the old woman, is thrown over the staircase and critically injured. The old woman kills a girl, and the remaining officer, Sergio, is forced to shoot her. Angela and Pablo begin interviewing with residents. One of them is a sick little girl named Jennifer. Her mother, Mari, claims that she has tonsillitis and says her dog Max is at the vet. A health inspector in a hazmat suit arrives to help, but the injured residents become extremely aggressive. The health inspector explains that they are infected with a virus similar to rabies. The disease was traced back to a dog in the building, and Angela realizes it must be Max. Jennifer, now infected, bites her mother's face and flees. Sergio handcuffs Mari to the stairs. They find Jennifer, but she bites Sergio. The infected break down the warehouse door that they were locked in, and more of the residents are bitten and infected. Angela, Pablo, and Manu, the remaining three survivors, set out to find a key that will allow them to escape the building via a large drain in the basement. Manu is bitten, forcing Angela and Pablo to take refuge in the penthouse. They discover a tape recorder that explains that the penthouse owner, an agent of the Vatican, was charged with the task of isolating an enzyme carried by a young Portuguese girl named Tristana, whose symptoms suggested demonic possession. The enzyme mutated and becomes contagious. The agent sealed Tristana in the home to die. An infected boy damages Pablo's camera, and he activates the night vision, and now ghoulish Tristiana emerges and searches the penthouse for food. Pablo is killed by Tristiana. Seeing Tristiana eating him, Angela panics and drops the camera. She is then dragged into the darkness screaming. That's the movie.
Word.
It's very easy. But when I watched it, I feel like the plot is
it feels like
much
it's
more
going,
than that.
Yeah.
It's like going and everything makes sense. It's like it's very, very well written story beats. Like it does that whole, I was listening to that one, I think it was Trey Parker talking about how if you have beats in a story, you should never ever have an and then in between them. It should be but or therefore. And that was something I really noticed in this movie was...
What or therefore? Can you elaborate?
So if this thing happens, therefore this thing happens. Not this thing happens and then this thing happens. You're dead in the water if you say and this. So instead it should be therefore or but. So it's possible that you could say, as we saw here, they go to do this, but this person's infected and it causes this to happen and it changes the story.
Where did you hear him talking about that? That's really interesting.
I forget. It was on Twitter or something. Okay. It was a clip. He gave some seminar.
Okay.
Him and Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Search Trey Parker. Well, we know Trey Parker and Matt Stone can write a story. Not only have they done How Much on South Park, but Book of Mormon is iconic. If only we could do that. Maybe we should start
Cover Book of Mormon?
A side podcast where
musicals?
We just review musicals. Because I would love to just spend all of my time seeing musicals. Also, shout out to Norton. Shout out to Norton. There's probably our dog drinking water in the background. As per usual, I'm pretty sure
tapping around.
He's in almost every single episode in some small little guy feature.
Oh, wait, he's about to lay down. Shh, don't say anything.
What an angel.
Right. But I would say this movie is written very well in the fact that it moves from those beats very seamlessly and they all play into each other. And what it does that I want to commend is when it doesn't have anything to say, they turn the camera off. Pablo's good about always filming, right? He always wants to film so we know stuff, but there are multiple times where they choose to turn the camera off, and I'm sure the filmmaker is deciding because there's not anything interesting that propels us forward. Well, and I'm impressed.
They even say, they only have so much tape, so they have to, kind of utilize it sparingly. So when they're recording someone who isn't being interesting, they stop. She signals him or he chooses to stop recording. And there's, a scene or two where they'll, turn it back on and she'll be like, Pablo, get this!
Yeah.
So I like that, and I like that they kind of give you the reason for that, being that they only have so much tape and battery. It
shows a ton of restraint, because I do think there are so many found footage where they just are showing way too much. Mm-hmm. So.
And this movie's scary as shit. Yep. I am going to share the hides and scream count now. It's been a while on this pod since we had a movie that had this many hides and screams. The last one that really got us at all was Skinamarink, I would say.
Yeah, Skinamarink was not a fun watch. I really like Skinamarink, but I don't want to watch it. Where this one I would show to anybody and be like, this is so fun.
7 screams.
Yeah.
Half of which were Matt.
All of my screams were then followed by me giggling, though, because I was having such a good time.
Do you remember where you first screamed? Was it
I
the
don't
old
know.
woman?
It might have been the old woman. It's just like everything's framed so well in this that it just like creates eerie and startling imagery.
Yeah.
And I don't. There's something about it. I'm gonna say I'm not. Remind me to talk about the framing later. But I'm not sure where the first one was, but throughout there's some really well created jump scares and some tense moments. But like I said, all of my screams were followed up by me laughing because it's just like that. I think I'm just almost impressed by the craftsmanship and then like the fun I'm also having.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is very fun.
And how were your hides and screams? You were the one that was hiding.
Yeah, you don't hide like I do. I hid 4 times, and 3 of the 7 screams, I think, were me.
And were most of the hides when they were in the penthouse?
The hides were definitely later in the movie. The penthouse got 1 or 2 of mine, like at the end. I don't really remember where the first 2 were. One had to have been like middle of the way
there's
through.
a couple little like grosser scenes too that I think made you hide. Like some good practical effects.
I don't know if that's what did it for me or not, but
they definitely do have some good practical effects.
Yeah, the practicals are good.
Like some good blood effects and some good like gore effects, I guess. I wouldn't say this movie is gory, but there are some.
No, I wouldn't say it. But like
there.
inherently, when you have like a zombie or zombie adjacent film, you're gonna have gore. That's just the nature of.
I definitely screamed when people got bit. For some reason, the biting, and this was very visceral and upset me.
It feels really real to me. Like obviously, we don't have zombie outbreaks, but like it feel like this is what it would feel like.
Yeah,
and the government would lock us in the building.
It is such a genius setup to like. They spend I think the first 5 minutes just following like the firemen around. It's really like boring, but you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. It makes you like Angela, right? Like she's our main character. It makes us like interested in her.
Because the policeman keeps saying like, stop recording. Oh, later. Well, once they get to the building.
I was talking about the first 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I figured that out. I will say when you get to the building and they're recording, the like policeman is like, stop recording. And she's like, people need to see this. And I was so on her side. I was like, yeah, bitch, tell him. Keep that camera on, girl.
It's because they do the pre-work, though, to make us like Angela and Pablo. Because a lot of found footage protagonists become very unlikable because they're selfish and always have the like, they have to film everything. That's like a problem we saw with Paranormal Activity with the husband kind of being a dickhead. And even I think in Blair Witch, like they become unlikable. Where this one, they've done the pre-work to make us really like the characters. They also cast very well for Angela. That it's like you're just on their side the whole time, even when they're recording when they maybe shouldn't be.
I think we're very sympathetic to it too because it's like, at least for us, and I do wonder what like police violence looks like in other countries. Because I don't know what that looks like in Spain. But in, like, here, there's a lot of instances of cops doing really heinous things.
And turning their cameras off.
Turn their cameras off or tell people to stop recording and, like, threaten to fuck them up or arrest them for recording. So, for me, I was like, don't listen to him. He's shady.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, like, personal experience and just like what we see constantly in the US when it comes to police brutality, I was like, yeah, you should record. Especially when this like, you know, government entity or whatnot is closing down this whole building, isn't telling you shit.
Yeah,
like, they're not actually protecting you.
I do kind of stand behind the government on this one, though.
I know.
Like, you know, yeah, you made the right call. This is what you gotta do.
Because this virus can't be, like, out there. But at the same time, they didn't do anything to actually help the people inside. They didn't give them actual instructions at all or tell them anything that was going on. I
lost my train of thought, but that brings me back to why I was saying I think the setup is so good is because this is a scary scenario. Because, of course, they wouldn't tell you anything. I mean... It honestly kind of makes me think of the Community episode with the zombies. Yeah,
I love that episode so much.
Where they're locked in, but it's so perfect to think about. You know, they just came along for the ride with the firemen. Like being a fireman, you kind of setting yourself up for danger, right? But this camera crew didn't put themselves in here or didn't ask for this, right? Not that I'm saying they asked for it, but you know where I'm going.
They're not in a career that's inherently dangerous.
Yeah, and so now all of a sudden you're following these characters you like and you are behind the camera. You, the audience, is like Pablo, right? And now we're stuck in this building too. And it's, I guess, the idea of being just trapped in this building, not knowing why, and then all of a sudden spooky shit starts happening. People start getting bit. It's good. And I would say I love the set. This apartment building is just a really perfect set. I have a very good understanding of the space of there, which is good camera work and good just like planning.
Well, and they do like very much have conversations that beyond what you're physically seeing that sets up the space, they'll then have conversations about who is located in what floor and what apartment. So you're able to get like a good feel of where those things are located when the characters are moving through the stairwell. I
agree. All right, let me tell you about why I love this as a found footage so much.
Yeah.
You ready? Okay, so I was so impressed. And I think it's when you set the story up as that it's an actual professional holding the camera, it changes everything. Because we still get some moments of shaky cam, but overall we end up getting like actual well-framed shots because this is a professional. So then also you have your creators aren't being lazy as well, and they're deciding to actually set up these good shots, but it makes sense for everything to be set up well. So things are framed very well. Things are in focus. It's not all like just camera getting jumbled around, moved around. The lighting is even like kind of good in some instances. And like overall, I feel like this just works so well. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, like this camera, because he is a professional, like they have the different lighting, they have the night vision and all this shit, and he knows how to actually use it too, which I feel like comes in handy. It's not just some like dickhead with a camera.
We have multiple amazing shots of like down a hallway where you can like, there are multiple layers of people that you can see. But yeah, overall, I think that's what really makes this work. Is it just like makes sense that there's a camera and the professional can actually use the camera. So that, and it actually feels like a real film in comparison to a lot of other found footage that I feel like doesn't.
Throw shots.
Saying. Yeah. You know, I've never seen Cloverfield, but I don't particularly think that one, from what I've seen, is very good.
Man's like, I've never
Blair
seen
Witch,
it.
I've seen the clips of it. I don't like the Paranormal Activity franchise, even though that's a lot of more security footage.
Which makes sense, too. I think for me, found footage, there needs to be, like, a very valid reason that you have this footage and that you have the camera out for me to, like, buy in. Although, like, to be fair, in this day and age, we all have phones, so, like, it would be totally fair for any of us to have our phone out.
That's why found footage doesn't work anymore, basically.
Yeah, but I think having this, like, excuse as to why there is a camera, which is why the beginning setup is so important, like this late night show, works so well. That's the same with, like, Late Night with the Devil. Like, it's a reason they have this footage. I think, you know, when you have the justification, I buy into it so much more.
I agree. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about how a lot of directors a lot of directors are doing period pieces pre-cell phone because cell phones create huge problems for plots in movies. And I was thinking about this. I was like, wait, they had cell phones in this. And I was like, oh, I remember. They immediately shut the cell service off, the government in that area. So it's another example of...
And that would happen.
But it's another example of like filmmakers being like, shit, cell phones ruin everything. We have to like remove them. So very interesting. I wonder if that'll be a thing we see where we're going to see less and less movies set in modern time because cell phones are a pain in the ass to deal with from a narrative standpoint.
Well, it's even like... This is a funny example, but the Percy Jackson books and movies, well, actually I can't really say movies, but like the books, they write in an excuse why the characters can't use phones and have to use the iris messaging. Yeah. And the reason is that monsters are attracted to phones, which is so funny. I'm telling you, phones. But like you buy in.
Cell phones have like make narratives very hard.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm sure everyone's going to start seeing that now that we said it. All right. What else did you like about this?
I really liked that, again, this movie does feel, all things considered, pretty grounded in reality. And the actors that they cast in this film really help with that. Like, the only person that I think was a person you might have known would have been our main character, Angela Manuela Velasco. And that's because she, has done acting and TV hosting, but that fits her character. So, like, that feels genuine for her, and everyone else is kind of like a no-name, but that works. Like, why would you have a big name person? Like, you wouldn't, like, if I were watching a found footage and I saw Leonardo DiCaprio, I'd be like, okay, that's disingenuous.
All the performances,
and I think they all did a good job, yeah.
No, they're all very authentic. They feel very real. They feel unpolished in ways that, like, real people are. Mm-hmm. Especially, like, there's a lot of, like, cool little interview segments to kind of help you breathe a little in between chaos happening. And I think it just, like, really sets everyone up very well. It gives every actor, like, a little opportunity to shine.
I keep thinking of the man. When I think about the actors in this, I just think about the one man that they're doing the little interview with, who's, like, sitting at that angle trying to look handsome.
Oh, yeah.
And then she's asking him questions, and then he's, like, saying something a little racist, and then about another resident in the building. And then she asks more questions. He's like, oh, and we starting? And she's like, oh, we did. And then he's like, why didn't you tell me? And then, like, shifts again to try and look better for the camera. For some reason, that's where my mind keeps going. Yeah. There's all the horror in this, and my brain is thinking about that dude.
No, those scenes are really good, though. They I think, just, like, help us live in the world, make things feel more grounded, as you said. While there's a big leap. Obviously, it's like everyone's seen a zombie story, which this sort of is. Mm-hmm. But it, I think, like, it grounds us in reality.
Mm-hmm. I do like to, I think the pacing of this movie is incredible.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
We said that already, but first you have, like, the establishing what the show is. Meeting the firefighters, meeting the characters. Then you end up in the building. We don't really know why we're there. They just kind of know, like, an old woman fell and was, like, screaming or something. And they get there and they kind of establish that she is violent and, like, trying to hurt or bite them. And then she attacks one of them. But we still don't know that it's, like, transferable via bite, and it takes half the movie to, like, figure that out. Mm-hmm. And then it just, like, kind of full sprints after that.
There's a lot of and thens. Come on, Hannah. There are foreign buts. Mm-hmm. Yes, it goes into full sprint. And so I'll say, and then basically there's, like, bodies that were in one area, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and you don't know where the zombies are. And there's this amazing shot of them running. Well, they go one place, but they get there and the keys are somewhere else. They go back downstairs. They finally get the keys, turn around. Then you see all the zombies, and there's this great shot of them running up the spiral staircase, looking down at every character that we've seen throughout is infected on a different level of the staircase, looking up at them. And you're running upstairs. There's nowhere to go. You can't go out the front door. You can't go out any of the windows. There's only way to go is just to another room. Mm-hmm. And that's where they end up, in the room with Tristiana, the actual demon.
Yeah.
And that's where I think this movie gets extremely tense. The whole time it's, like, scary, and I think the scares are good. It is very tense because you don't know what is going to happen, like, who's going to get infected, how they're going to get out of this, and spoiler alert, they don't. But they end up in this room where it goes pitch black, and you have this big scary creature walking around, and the design is pretty perfect, and they don't show enough of her.
Big scary creature, which is Tristana, whatever her name is, she looks pretty similar to Mama, Mother from Barbarian.
And Mama. Yeah. And kind of just lanky.
Oh, it's played by the same person as Mama I think. And that's Javier Batet, who also plays the Crooked Man in The Conjuring 2.
Oh, there you go. That makes sense.
Yeah, just this really tall man with Marfans, I think, that looks scary and prosthetics.
The design is really good and unnerving, and to have it walking around in the dark, really just as, like, an animal, like, just, like, looking for food is, it scares the shit out of me,
unsettling,
to be honest.
As hell.
That was when Hannah was like, I can't watch this anymore.
Yeah, I checked out. I was like, absolutely not. No. That's how I felt the first time I saw Barbarian, and this is my second watch. I was like, absolutely not. I'm not looking at that. I can't. It's too dark. And you can only see so much, and
yeah, the whole thing is just so well crafted. I feel like I keep coming back to that. Like, the scares are really well crafted. Everything about it is cool, especially for a found footage. And maybe
I feel like this, like, the story and what they're doing might not be, like, 100% the most original film I've seen, but because it's so well made.
It's like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the idea of getting locked in the apartment with the infection's a little bit different for a zombie story.
Every zombie story is getting
not
locked
usually.
in somewhere.
Is it? Yeah, usually the zombies are on the outside, and this time you're locked in with the zombies. That's how I see it being different.
Okay.
I can't think of an example where they're locked in with the zombies other than Dawn of the Dead.
Train to Busan.
Oh, okay, but that came out after this.
You're right.
Dawn of the Dead, sort of. But
That's
Dawn of the Dead, they kind of have their own little area that they're in. There's like no getting away from them here.
Yeah, I don't know the chronological order of the release dates of various zombie media, so I guess I can't actually argue what was first or more original.
We should do a zombie-themed episode where we watch as many zombie movies as possible.
Ugh, we have not had time to do another themed episode since the A24 one, because that was exhausting. A lot of movie watching.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. I do want to do a zombie one. I want to do a found footage one.
Well, I really want to cover Night of the Living Dead at some point, because I watched that, spoilers for our podcast, but I watched that for the first time ever recently, which was a huge blind spot, and I loved it. So I'm excited for us to cover it at some point.
Mm-hmm. I watched it because Matt Dalton, the actor, was in the musical.
Yep. And it's great. And I'd seen Dawn, but never Night of the Living, and I loved it. It also, Night of the Living was filmed close to where I lived.
I was just thinking, why didn't we go see that? Because we posted about it. It was while we were on our honeymoon.
Yep.
Matt, how dare you be in a show when we can't go? So rude. We support you, buddy.
All right. What are the things you don't like about this movie, if any?
The one thing I don't like is I just think I guess that they're trying to give us like a reason or an answer, but I don't necessarily know that we needed an answer as to why there is this infection.
Oh, you don't like the Vatican thing?
I think that's a little silly.
Oh, that's fine. I love it.
I think it's a little goofy.
Interesting. I'm going to tell you why I think I like it.
Yeah, no. And a personal preference, right? Like, you might love that, you might not. It just didn't do anything. What year did
this come out again? 2007?
Yeah.
So this is like a pre-big zombie phase, but like still kind of a big zombie phase.
Hey, when did The Walking Dead come out?
That's a great question. Look it up while I talk. But you got to listen to me too.
Came out in
your internet broke?
Yeah.
Okay.
The second you start speaking, I'm going to have it. 2010.
Yeah, 2010. I feel like that was the the zombie decade.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I really like, everything in this was accelerating, right? This whole movie, we use that term a lot, was accelerating. Mm-hmm. Ends up with just the two of them left running up the staircase, hiding from all of them. And then they end up in this room where they're actually safe for a little bit. And you're like, all right, we're relaxed. We're safe. And then all of a sudden there's all this crazy religious paraphernalia everywhere, experiments and things. And now you're like, I'm in a completely different movie all of a sudden. And that's when they play the recording. And it's about like, he transferred this girl here where he then did experiments. You're like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, and I left her in this room to die. And now as the audience, you're like, oh, we have bigger problems. And that's why I feel like your stomach drops out and you realize like, oh, we're trapped. Like those were pawns to this, like this much bigger threat in this room. And I feel like that really like works. Yeah, like if it's a possession thing, whatever, it's just like a clever way to do zombies. But I think that whole thing just changes this third act into be something completely different, or fifth act, really.
No, I like the concept of them being stuck in this room, no lights. There's like an entity in this room that's gonna harm them. I just was like, what the fuck is going on with this Vatican demonic possession thing? Like, it just kind of fell out of left field, because it is.
They probably just want to do something different for zombies. I don't know. And I think it's kind of cool.
I am intrigued as to how they write that into the sequels, but we're not covering those, so here we are.
I'm never watching them properly. I love this movie. I don't need any more.
Yeah. That's how I feel about, like, the book Firefly Lane. I sobbed enough. I don't need a sequel. Like, perfect
that went
first
right
edition.
Over my head.
That's one of the ones where you've definitely come into the house and been like, are you okay? Because I'm just, like, sobbing on the sofa.
Well,
if you've read it, you know. Not in horror media, but Yeah, sometimes I just, like, don't want a sequel. Like, I just don't need it if it's gonna ruin my original
That'll be my
experience.
dislikes. My dislikes is American remakes are dumb and don't need a sequel. I'm not disliking anything else about this because I find it to be the perfect genre found footage horror movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I don't actually have any other complaints beyond that, really. Like, all of the characters make sense to me. The plot, besides that little piece,
Pacing is phenomenal. It's short as hell, which is fun.
Oh, we love a short little ride.
I'm fine with a 3.5 hour movie, but
you
also
have to like earn your 3.5 hours.
Agreed. When you can sell me on, when you can pack a punch in 74 minutes, like holy shit, there we go. I'll take that.
100%. And I kind of feel like as a found footage, I like a succinct.
Agreed.
Project.
Okay, what are we talking about now?
So we've done likes, dislikes, which we only have one of. Do you have any hot takes about this movie?
Oh yeah, my hot take is the best found footage horror movie.
And I don't know how hot of a take that is, frankly. I mean, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, that's my hot take. It's better than Blair Witch.
Well, I feel like our like generation, because we didn't get the same circumstances surrounding the release
That's
of
some
the
bullshit.
film.
If you have to have some... All right, no,
it didn't impact us.
I'm going to be more hyperbolic. That's some bullshit. If you have to have weird circumstances where you think the actors died, that's just cheating. Same thing with Cannibal Holocaust. I know that's pretty cool and probably a fun time, but like this, I knew this was fake and it impacted me harder.
I just like looked on Twitter just to see how hot of a take that was. I don't think it's that hot of a take. A lot of people saying, obviously Blair Witch comes up a lot. A lot of people saying Creep, As Above, So Below.
I haven't seen that, so I should watch that. And
Wreck.
Creep I've seen. Wreck is better than Creep, sorry.
I love Creep. They're doing entirely different things, though.
Yes.
I would say this is definitely the scarier movie. Yeah. Creep is not that scary. It's kind of funny.
Go listen to our recommendation episode, our movie rec Monday on it.
Maybe it's big enough that we
can cover it.
Maybe it was a bad wreck because people knew about it.
Yeah. Okay, so did you have any terrible Twitter takes or Reddit takes?
Okay. This is a terrible Twitter take. Someone said best found footage horror movie, and they posted 4 covers, like film covers. The Blair Witch Project, Wreck, Creep, and Paranormal Activity. One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, I just don't like Paranormal Activity at all. Maybe it was a timeline thing. I would have been the perfect demographic for it, actually, and I never liked it. I thought it was boring as fuck when I was in middle school or early high school when they came out.
I'm not gonna lie, this tweet was from 2 years ago. Somehow still came up first when I searched Wreck on or found footage on Twitter.
Have you seen the Paranormal Activity movies or no?
No.
Oh, interesting.
I just trash it.
You should probably watch the first one. Maybe
I just know that like
no, they played every trailer was like the heart rate of people watching it. This is the scariest movie of all time, and then it just like
I saw a scene that was someone was like, "Oh my god, this is the scariest scene ever," and then I watched it and I was like, "Huh."
Yeah, it's not very good in my opinion,
and it just made me uninterested completely.
But I've talked shit on that a lot.
Before I was a horror girly too, so.
I've talked shit on that movie a lot, but I should probably I haven't seen it in years, so maybe I'll rewatch it, and we could watch it for the pod, and then I could talk shit then too. People love that movie. People love that movie. I don't get it, but I haven't seen it in years, so
yeah. So who knows?
I could be wrong.
Maybe we're just.
I do think that Creep and Wreck are leagues above Paranormal Activity, though.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Blair Witch Project. It's pretty fun.
I think because it's like such a staple of the genre, I understand putting it there. Like it is what spawned all of the found footage.
No, Hannibal Holocaust did. No, you're right. Cannibal Holocaust was first, and then Blair Witch after.
Yeah, like 2 decades after.
Oh, really? So there was nothing in between then?
There was like maybe 10 in between, 10 to 15 in between, and then there's just like a bajillion posts. That is what got that subgenre on the map, was Blair Witch.
I was just trying to actually you. Actually.
Well, you were wrong.
I was wrong.
So it didn't work very well.
I want to show my trivia knowledge.
Didn't work well for you.
All right. Do you have a favorite scene?
I don't know if it's my actual favorite scene, but one moment that got me, and I knew it was coming. I just it's kind of funny, kind of scary. So when mom just you know that this child, the whole time that mom keeps saying it's tonsillitis, you know she has it, because why else would she be sick in the context of this other quote illness? And she's holding her kid, and everyone's like, okay, ma'am, your kid has it. And she's like, no, it's just tonsillitis. It's just tonsillitis. And then the kid just leans forward and bites her face.
And then sprints up the stairs.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's really funny.
Yeah, it's such a moment. It's one of the, it's screwed up. She just bit her mom's face. She is infected. But, it is a moment of levity. Because you're she just bit her mom's face. There is something goofy about that.
That was one that I was thinking, but I have a couple other. I have 3. Can I just say all of them?
Yeah. I feel like that's not my only one. That's just what came to mind.
Well, I'll say my 3, but I'll be quick. The first time they see the old woman.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
Is such a good, because you don't really know where this is going at first. I could show somebody this and not tell them, and that's when it would
not know.
You wouldn't know. And the first time they see the old woman, she basically just is looking really disoriented, and then just attacks with her super strength one of the cops and bites them.
Oh, maybe she's just experiencing psychosis or something.
And then that happens.
And then
Oh, I know another time I screamed. It was when that dude came over the railing and hit the ground.
I was gonna say that's another moment where my head spun. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, because it kind of comes out of nowhere. I wouldn't say there's a lot of build up to that whatsoever, but that one I read, I don't think they warned the cast.
Oh, that's awesome, because it made me scared.
Yes.
So I'm scared of everyone else.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to be my favorite. The other favorite is a specific shot. I said it earlier. It's when they're running up the stairs near the end, and he turns and puts the camera over this spiral staircase thing, and you just see all of the infected chasing them, looking up. That really scared me. And then I think the actual scariest scene is when Pablo goes up into the penthouse and goes into the attic and is slowly doing a 360 of the camera, and then there's a little infected boy that hits the camera, and it's one of the best jump scares in the movie.
Yeah, my eyes were closed.
Yeah, well, it was really scary and good, intense.
I was hiding.
Yeah.
So that one didn't get me as much, but because I knew it was going to kill me.
All right, let's talk about some themes.
A question mark? I would say the purpose of this movie is just to scare you and make you have a good time.
I mostly agree.
Thematically, I guess my one thought is just kind of about government entities keeping us in the dark, like I've said before. This government entity is trying to obviously help the overall population because the shit can't get out. Understandable for them to lock them in so the shit doesn't get out. But, they don't explain anything. They don't give them anything to help them. They don't give them instructions or, stay away from certain people. They don't tell you anything. So it's how am I... you're basically just sacrificing this building of people and they just don't care. And that's kind of how our government works. And then this wasn't even our government. That's just how governments, period, work. And I understand, you have to protect the greater
I do kind of agree with
population.
The government in this situation.
But I just feel a lot of times we're held in the dark about the actual, reasons or way things function, which doesn't do us any good.
Agreed. I think another one, and I got this by looking online a little bit, but it was kind of the horror of close quarters living, which isn't a real horror. We live in an apartment, but living in an apartment or living in that kind of thing does have its bumps, right? Mm-hmm. By being close with other people, you had a person fall out of the window and onto your car, and then you had a bunch of damage to your car because this person fell out their window. Can
I go into a story time of that once you're done talking about this theme? Okay.
But my point is I like living around people and I like living in a city. However, there is some tension by being this close to people all the time. There's also virus that can basically turn friends into enemies at any moment. So you can, it's just the fear of people turning on you, I guess, and how quickly that can happen. But I think overall it's all about Oh, yeah. Untrustworthiness and callousness of institutions designed to protect us.
Like I said.
Classic. But also it's to make you poop your pants.
Yeah. Main purpose to poop your pants.
I saw a lot of this on a review on Letterboxd that I was looking at, and this person said they kind of wrote all those themes and then said, but the writer-directors don't seem that especially interested in profound insights or thematic depth. The goal is simple: to see how many changes of underwear the viewer can be forced to undergo by the end credits. Whether that goal is a worthwhile one is a case-by-case determination, but it is a goal that is achieved with flying colors.
That's so funny. Who wrote that?
It was just a random person on Letterboxd.
I know. You didn't give us their name. That's so rude. You're plagiarizing.
I forgot. I didn't plagiarize. I read it as a quote and I forgot their name. I'm sorry.
Well, you're not properly citing them then if you don't tell us who it is.
Sue me.
That's rude as hell, bro. Well, Letterboxd writer, I hope you listen to this.
I can go find it. I thought that I saved it and I forgot.
Okay, well, story time while Matt's doing that. So I need to explain the car thing. So one day I go out to my car, which is parked in my assigned parking spot at our apartment building. And it is next to the building, like under a window. And I go to my car and there's like dents in the hood of my car. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it kind of looks like I can't really identify the shape. And I'm like, there's no paint chip, but there's a big dent. Like someone vandalized my car. That's crazy. So we had just gone through a shift in building management and I'm trying to like figure out the right number to call so I can like get them to look at the footage of the camera that's outside. And so I text my next door neighbor, who's the only person in the building whose number I have. And I text him and I'm like, hey man, like, do you have the new building management's or maintenance phone number? I need that. And he's like, oh, why? And I'm like, dude, like someone vandalized my car in the parking lot. I need the footage. And he's like, oh, what's it look like? And I'm like, give me the phone number. But then I sent a picture and he goes, oh my God, that was me. And I'm like, what? And so we end up unweaving the tale. He, I guess drunkenly, like came home at 5 a.m. from a friend's house and like walked 20-30 minutes and then got home and realized he didn't have his keys. And he was like, he knew like the front door code to get in the building, but then didn't have his key to his apartment. So instead of like, I don't know, Ubering back to this person's house or having them run the keys over, he decided to try and climb from one window in the hallway outside the building into his apartment window that he had left open. And obviously, in the process of doing that, drunk at 5-something in the morning, fell, bounced off an awning, and then fell onto my car. And
you can probably hear you talking about it right now.
That's cool, man. You didn't pay for it, so I don't care. I'm gonna rat you out. I didn't say your name. And there was a person-sized dent on my car for a while because I was too trusting and thought he would give me money to fix it, and it was the whole thing. The car's good as new now.
Well, the person on Letterboxd's name was just Aaron.
Aaron.
And they have a Twitter, ARBOGAST 1960, but they have only like 400 followers.
Okay, so it's just a dude. That's sick as hell, bro. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Thanks, Aaron.
Well, that's all I got for themes.
I hope you enjoyed story time.
I did. All right. You ready to rate this thing?
You go first.
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's found footage. You can't get a 10 out of 10, unfortunately, because inherently found footage is just a little bit lesser. However, this is a perfect found footage horror movie, so it's going to get a 9.
I'm thinking, somewhere 8.5 to 9. I'll go 8.5 just to be different. I think it's a really good movie. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I feel like I generally enjoy a movie that has more to say, maybe. So it's hard for me to give it a perfect or anything. But it was such a fun ride. Like, I would be remiss not to give it at least an 8.5.
Well, please go watch it. It's in Spanish. It's on Amazon Prime for like $4.
That's where we watched it.
Very worth it. You get 48 hours. Show it, watch it, and then show it to a friend.
Yeah, perfect. Get 2 watches out of it.
Yep. $4 is nothing. We're too spoiled by streaming nowadays anyway.
Once I really wanted to see that documentary Blackfish, and I rented that on Amazon for $4, and I watched it like 4 times in the span of 2 days to feel like I got my money's worth.
That's so silly.
And I don't think many people...
I
benefited from...
Let's just get a Blu-ray player and we'll start actually getting physical media again.
Hey, do you remember when I had physical media like 2 years ago and you made me throw it out?
It was DVDs, man.
And Blu-ray.
You had Blu-ray?
Yeah. And you were like, you don't need this.
Yeah, but it was like dumb stuff.
It was memories of my childhood.
Yeah, it was like...
To have a copy of 13 going on 30. I'm still PO'd.
Whatever.
Bitch.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannahs. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannahs on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!